I want to talk about this. You bring up this total team effort, and I think that's one of the really interesting things that we're seeing this year. We always talk about the NBA being a star-driven league, right? You can't win without a star. I think that we all sort of agree on that as a given in the NBA, and that's why teams pay so much money to their stars, and there's so much division there, there's such a gap, and they're willing to tie up almost their entire salary cap in two guys. This is what we're seeing now, right? But there are a few teams, namely three, that I want to talk about: Denver, Portland, and Philadelphia, that are doing so with a completely different style than I've seen in a while. And especially Denver. I watched, probably spread out about, I tried to watch as much as I can. It's hard to shuttle around, but I was watching a decent amount of the Denver Nets game. A little bit, I don't know how much I want to watch that game. It's like David versus Goliath, even though the Nets made it close, a little bit closer. But isn't that funny? David versus Goliath against a Nuggets team where, I have a hard time naming their starting five, but everybody works so well together. Danilo Gallinari might be the best player on that Denver Nuggets team. Have you seen them play? Do you agree? Same thing with Portland and Philadelphia. Let's just talk a little bit about how you've got these teams, and if I was to make a top 10, the Sixers and Denver would be in there, and Portland would all be in any top 10 that I would make, and I've got Denver in my top 5. I mean, you watch them and the kind of fluidity that they have on offense, especially when they're pushing the ball on the fast break and in transition. I don't know. I mean, can these teams with stars playing isolation or a set-up offense, like a sort of more of like a modified triangle, can that work? Can that beat a team that's playing with so much fluidity as a team like, say, Denver or Philadelphia or Portland consistently?
I think in the NBA, it's yes, because the Heat made it to the finals last season. A lot of people feel they should have won. And their formula is two guys with role players. And I don't mean to egregiously slight Chris Bosh, but, again, he's not in the league he's not in the same category as LeBron and D. Wade. I think that a Nuggets team, a Portland team, these kind of teams, they do well during the regular season because they're fresh. There's not as much pressure as we're seeing put on, guys like LeBron and D. Wade. I mean, all of a sudden they lose 2 games in a row and the sky's falling. Well, granted, we've been quick. I've been quick, especially to criticize them, but you don't get that as much from the teams that have more balance. The Nuggets right now have 6 players averaging double figures, but how is their defense going to be in big moments? Who is their go-to guy? Is it Danilo Gallinari? Do you really want him being your go-to guy
well,
right now?
Well, that's a question. That's a question. How important is it to have a go-to guy? I mean, I'm not saying that I'm sold on anything. I mean, I'm sure that Knicks fans were happy as well as they were passing the ball around last season before they got Melo. They were moving it well. They were in transition. The D'Antoni system was working to mostly they were kind of a 500 team, but you know what I mean. But then they got Melo, and it was like, yeah, 30 to 35, but you have the clutch guy, and the Lakers have Kobe, and the Oklahoma City Thunder have Kevin Durant, and I guess the Heat have LeBron, although I'd make an argument I'd rather have Wade in that spot, I think. But how important is it to have that guy with 7 seconds left to go in a game and you're down 2 or 3 points to be able to go to? Is that an important thing in the NBA to have on your team?
I think in the NBA it's absolutely crucial. I think in the college game it's very important, but it's not essential, crucial. In the NBA, it's crucial. The superstars are the ones that win games down the stretch, and that's just been proven over and over again.
Yeah.
I think right now, man, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the Denver Nugget locker room with everybody sitting around and George Karl saying, let's have a vote right now. Who's the guy that takes the shot at the end of the game? Because I don't think that there is one guy. And that's okay. For right now, that's fine.
They're winning.
They're winning, and you don't need that. Maybe as the season goes on, you want to establish that a little bit more. Look, I am very much a team guy. I don't, sometimes the notion of everything falling on one player in an isolation moment at the end of the game, No, I'm not a fan of that. Sometimes to me that's not basketball. You're getting away from that fluidity. You're getting away from that finesse of what makes basketball a great game. But that is the way sometimes that the NBA works. I don't love it, but that is how it works. It worked all in the entire playoffs last season. Who was the guy for the Mavericks that got the ball every time and delivered almost all of them? Dirk. He did it again last night. You just continue to see that across the league, and it started to trend to that much more in the Michael Jordan era. And I think we just continue to see that. And again, it just gets back to our beginning point. That's what makes these teams like the Blazers and the Nuggets and the Sixers, and even I would even throw in right now the Indiana Pacers. I don't think that they have the ability to last throughout the whole season and be a top 5, top 6. They might not even make the playoffs. Maybe they'll sneak in 7 or 8 seed. Those teams are so much fun to watch, though. The Suns are and especially were so much fun to watch because you never knew who was going to come attack you in a big moment to score. They didn't always have that number one guy, but in the end, as fun as that is to watch, it kind of becomes your undoing because you just don't have that one guy. And as much as sometimes in the regular season it might seem, you don't need that all the time. In the big moments and when you get into the playoffs, history has proven that you do. In the NBA, you do.
I mean, this is going to be one of these debates that we're going to continue having over and over. It's one of the big NBA debates about, the clutch gene and how important the clutch gene. And if the clutch gene exists, is it important? Is it important to give Kobe the ball in an isolation play, which is basically a clear out, and rely on him to make a shot happen? And 9 times out of 10, it's a low percentage fadeaway. He's being defended by a guy with just as much adrenaline, who maybe doesn't have the name recognition. Who's a good defender, and he gets a hand in his face, and he's taking a low percentage fadeaway shot, right? Kobe, Melo, any of these, LeBron, any of these guys that we sort of associate with a clutch gene. Although I guess right now people wouldn't associate LeBron with that, but I think that that's one of the big NBA debates that we'll keep having during this season.